Welcome everybody to our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month Chapel. And I especially want to thank these guys for putting this together. Really, this idea only came about 2 weeks ago, and so they have really worked hard in a very short period of time to put together what I think you'll find to be a deeply moving and incredibly inspirational program. So thank you. I'm just wondering if we can give them a hand for I'm particularly thankful for our seniors who I have close relationships with, and we're going to miss you guys so much, and thank you for your putting this together for us and helping to oversee it for us. Thank you so much. And so I give you Lois and Tracy.
Hello, can you hear me? No. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our chapel service in honor of the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, hatred targeting the AAPI communities has escalated. Aside from more than 3,000 verbal assaults, such hatred has gone as far as motivating multiple incidences of severe physical violence. In January, a 52-year-old Asian American woman was shot in the head with a flare gun. Later that month, an 84-year-old Thai American died after being smashed to the ground by a 19-year-old man. On March the 16th, 8 people were killed in a mass shooting in Atlanta, 6 of whom are Asian American women. Finally, just 9 days ago, 2 Asian women were stabbed in a market in San Francisco.
For the AAPI community, this ongoing violence is painful. Research shows that the surge in anti-Asian discrimination has been linked directly to increases in depressive symptoms, sleep problems, and anxiety amongst those who are targeted. However, we also recognize that the racism reflected by recent attacks is no new development. Having always been regarded as the moral minority in the American society, it is not easy to reverse our decades of relative invisibility in the fight for racial injustice. For many members of the AAPI community, it is upsetting that so much shocking acts of violence had to take place before society realized the prevalence of anti-Asian bias, discrimination, and hatred in this country. This is why the Asian Affinity Group wants to hold a space for authentic narratives coming from the AAPI community during this chapel service. Several incredible students will be sharing reflections and poems about their experience with their Asian identity. We hope you listen with an open mind and enjoy. Thank you.
The first time that I ever lived in a foreign country was when I was in 3rd grade in California. Needless to say, everything was different for me. For the first couple of weeks in my school, I was not sure where I fit in. Luckily, I was able to make friends quickly, many of them Asian American. That was not a coincidence. It was as if I was surrounding myself with people who had similar stories as me, people who would understand me for who I was and won't question my differences. Still, I couldn't help feeling separate one way or the other. I was young and I did not fully comprehend the situation, but I distinctly remember feeling different as I ate my kimchi fried rice among everyone else's PB&Js and Lunchables, or when I took my shoes off at a friend's house when no one else did. I was trapped between downplaying my identity in this new community and staying true to myself and being different. Back then, I was naive, and those were seemingly meaningless differences. But today, I see that even those smaller differences hold a larger significance. Growing up, I was always shielded from stories of racism and have always been part of a community that made me feel safe and loved. What a privilege that was. What a privilege it was to have been able to turn a blind eye to all the injustices. The Asian community is a beautiful blend of different cultures, but one thing we know for sure is that racism against the community has existed for a long time. But I was always oblivious to all the violence, xenophobia, and hatred that Asians faced on a daily basis. It would be an understatement to say that I was heartbroken, shocked, and flooded with pain when I first heard of the surge in AAPI hate crimes. Every time I read of another attack against the community, with every word that I took in, I felt a deep cut within me. I found myself feeling afraid, and I found myself losing hope. Being different is nothing to be ashamed of, and no one deserves for their identities to become a source of fear. It is unbelievable and so cruel how one sense of self, something that should fill them with pride, can be morphed into such terrorizing tragedies from the misunderstandings of others. As the world battled with the COVID-19 pandemic for the past year, the Asian community has been fighting this pandemic of racism. It brings me so much anger, frustration, and sadness that the world we live today is still struggling to accept our differences. But we can learn from the mistakes of our past and move towards justice. The racially motivated harassment became part of the daily lives of many of the members of our community, but our virtues have not wavered, and this pandemic has not made any of us any less Asian. To all of you, I leave you with this. We want you to listen to our stories. We want you to remember our stories. We want you to stand beside us as we navigate through these difficult times. We are tough, we are resilient, we are proud, and we are ready to fight for a change. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zachary McAlintosh, and today I will be reading a poem. And in this poem, there will be a term that my family uses to refer to what I bring to school for lunch. It's called botwan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 kids who look like me and eat what I bought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 kids who look like me and eat what I bought. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 kids who look like me and eat what I bought. 1, 2, 3. 3 kids who look like me and eat what I bought. 1, 2. 2 kids who look like me and eat what I bought. 1 of 5, the first son, the 4th child. Surrounded by rectangular pizza styrofoam trays, I look down, unpacking out a bottle of water, a fork wrapped in thin plastic from Wendy's, and a Tupperware container filled with leftovers from yesterday. A day with ice cream cake, with candles, with the lights off for 30 seconds, with pictures and videos, with broth unfreezing, with water boiling, with packets of translucent uncooked noodles, with packets of yellow uncooked noodles, with the dish of noodles, a form of celebration, expected. Now that the mixture of orange and green vegetables, colored brown by the sauce, in this plastic container, red lid slowly peels back. Miss Cabrales, about as tall as me, about the same accent as my Lola, about the same reaction of the food as my siblings, excited, different than my classmates that are left to wonder. Botwan, Punset.
소금 같은 이야기 몇 줄, 윤수천. 이왕이면 소금 같은 이야기 몇 줄. 가슴속에 묻어두게나. 당장에는 견딜 수 없는 아픔이겠지만 지나고 나면 그것도 다 추억이 된다. 우리는 삶이란 참으로 이상한 것이 즐거웠던 일보다 쓰리고 아팠던 시간이 오히려 깊이 뿌리 내리는 것. 슬픔도 모으면 힘이 된다. 울음도 삭히면 희망이 된다. 정말이지 소금 같은 이야기 몇 줄 가슴에 품고 살게나. 세월이 지나고 인생이 허무해지면 그것도 다 놀잇감이 된다. So the translation is A Handful of Stories Like Salt by Yoon Soo-chun. If you can, bury a handful of stories like salt in your heart. I know it's unbearable right now, but as time passes, it'll all become memories. Life is so strange. Memories that are short and painful tend to stay with us longer. When sadness gathers, it becomes strength. When you stop crying, it becomes hope. Really, carry a few stories like salt in your heart. After years have passed, when life becomes futile, it'll all become comfort.
Today I'll be reading a poem written by Haley, one of my favorite juniors. So, here we go. A declaration for myself. Sometimes I wonder why people could live comfortably in their own little bubbles without paying attention to the world around them. The world that is overwhelmed by skin against skin, kins against kins, full of sins. Sometimes I wonder why it is only the people who are in need of desperate help are taking action, but the people who have the money, the luck, the opportunity would never speak up. They're spineless, shameful. Sometimes I wonder why. Why are we still living in this state of injustice? Why do all our fights seem so unaccomplished? Why couldn't we be like birds, flying freely and unitedly in any territories, soaring across the sky, no intimidation, exploring different sights with great enthusiasm, using the wings of their own against the gust, supporting each other, mutual trust. Why can't we be like this? Sometimes I wonder why. Life is supposed to be enjoying, but all I can feel is deep sadness. Sadness that stems from being a human, being a female, being an Asian. Sometimes I wonder why it is so difficult to be who I am meant to be, but it is so easy to reset everything I know about my own culture, my own ethnicity, my own struggles, just to mix well into that enormous land of the white. And this is where I decide to stop wondering why. Instead, now, I fight.
So today I'll be reading a poem I wrote earlier this year entitled Conspiracy Theories. You send me plenty of daily messages about this country in the news back home. How they have revealed the shocking truth of this or the dangerous secret of that. I guess this is the protection you can give, stuck continents and oceans away, warning me about this place full of strangers and thus full of hate. Honestly, your messages hit me in the wrong places, feeding me an anger I would rather not have. Sometimes it just gets so hard to understand how you're protecting me from a place that I have claimed to know so well. Why are there more boundaries to be drawn when I have fought so hard to erase so many? With the cheese I learned to sprinkle in my food, or the words I learned to roll off of my tongue. After these past 6 years, I have almost convinced myself that I belong, the same way shredded Parmesan melts into pasta. Until I wake up to my share of news, watching footage that cannot be mistaken of the blood of our people splattering onto concrete, of elders getting pummeled and struck for walking down a block where they too believe they belong just enough to walk down. I'm sorry, Grandma. I finally get it. No matter how I speak, or dress, or breathe, or smile, there is always something to be afraid of. Something that can't seem to be learned unless I could breathe under a different set of skin and bones. And I just think about you, sitting in your wheelchair back home, scrolling through the feed on your screen that has replaced your need to witness all things for yourself. And I just think about the world that you see, with me stuck somewhere in between, an outsider surrounded by so many more. And only then do I think about myself, about how I should stand with this loneliness, and whether I could indeed belong.
This poem is called Because I Am. Because I'm Asian, I'm expected to work hard, not just during school or office hours, but all hours of the day, all days of the week, all weeks of the year.
Because I'm a woman, I shouldn't complain, when I should accept my duties as a daughter, a wife, and or a mother. Otherwise, all I ever do is complain.
Because I'm Asian, I have to give up my dreams, especially if they're creative. Doctors and lawyers don't have time to paint or act or write poetry, and English degrees don't pay rent.
Because I'm a woman, I'm told to give up my career for the man that will swoop in and save my life so I can watch the children playing in the backyard from my suburbia kitchen.
Because I'm Asian, all my value is in my work.
Because I'm a woman, all my worth is in my body.
Because I'm Asian, I have to be smart. I have to succeed.
Because I'm a woman, I have to be feminine. I have to get married.
Because I'm Asian, I will work till I pass out from 3 hours of sleep and 5 Red Bulls if that means getting the work done.
Because I'm a woman, I will shut up and listen and guess at my male friends' feelings because apparently I talk too much.
Because I'm Asian, I'm insulted for wearing glasses, for not wearing glasses, for wearing a mask without being sick to protect myself and others.
Because I'm a woman, I'm shamed for being a virgin, for not being a virgin, for dressing and talking the way I do just because I like it.
Because I'm a woman, no one cares about me unless I'm super smart or super pretty or super rich. Because I'm Asian, life is like hacking at a steak with a butter knife. I can try as hard as I can until I die, but I'll never make it. Because I'm an Asian woman, I have to demand for the basic respect every human being deserves. I have to yell and cry and do unladylike things to begin to live my life just because I am. I want to first thank Lowe's for reading that with me. To give some context, I wrote this poem on March 9th, 2020, which is a little over a year ago. It was the first onslaught of the pandemic in the US, and I was staying with my good friend Piper in Pittsburgh. Because of the travel restrictions on China, I couldn't fly home for spring break. Meanwhile, in true Asian fashion, I know it's a joke, I had applied to the Stanford Humanities Institute summer program, one of the most competitive humanities programs in the country, and dare I say, in the world. I had applied the year before and gotten in, but I couldn't attend because of a schedule conflict. So with more experience in the subject and the application process, I had some expectations. But when I opened the portal only to see a rejection, I was in shock, in denial, and in pain. With everything that had been going on in the world at the time, I wondered if it was because I was Asian, or more specifically, Chinese. Now that I think about it, it probably was not just that. Hopefully not. But in a flurry of rage, I blamed my rejection on my identity as an Asian woman and took to the keyboard. This poem, while a product of my anger, shows, I hope, a snippet of what it means to be Asian and a woman in America and in this world. These are some of the expectations and assumptions people still have about this identity, these people who are trying to make it through the door without who we are being a deterrent.
I grieved the loss of my innocence, the childhood that loved the brightness, boldness, and the color yellow. It reminded me of the sun I drew in the corner of my pictures, or the rubber ducks that swam next to my towel in the bathtub. The youth that emerged me in yellow through and through and through. This innocence wishes it stayed longer with me, and I wish it was alongside me today. But the world forced me to exchange it for the acid-wash turmoil I'm reminded of after each hate crime. My love for the illuminating lemon yellow deteriorated into fallen droplets of golden blood that could have been my mother's, father's, Lola's, Papu's,
Ninongs, Ninongs. Each day I relive the world's want for me and my people to run into a field of barging bullets, waiting to pierce our bodies, ripping through the skin our ancestors tried to make bulletproof, but no task can build that strength. I escape into the darkness of the forest, hoping to inhale peace and search for the yellow, twinkling stars above that cry the same tears I cry. But I only find the spontaneous fires set by the arsonists the world call our saviors. My mind becomes smoky, and smog soaks into what's left of what I understand. I stare into the flames that wait for me, discovering how the destruction begins at the core of the fire and feeds into the remaining disintegrating yellowness. The flames somehow encapsulate how I feel, the same strength, motion, and limits. I lay on the ground as the earth pulls me into her chest, and I sink into the only force that keeps me above the waves that pull me in and push me out, never knowing if my mind will allow my body to rise again. I feel my power depleting from the eyes that will never see what I see. What I see drown me in my trembles. But I remind myself, even as the weight of the world conquers me, that my chest rises and falls. I wait for the day that I can breathe out with all my lungs, feel safe and accepted, embraced in my birthplace and forever home. Though I believe this exhale will not come while I still have breath, I hope the light of our children's eyes will never have to disappear as mine did this last year. May their favorite color always and forever be yellow. Thank you. Thank you.
No one knows how to lead chapel.
That got me.